Yahoo! It's Art Chat. Well, hello again and welcome to Art Chat. I'm Lynne Chapman and this is
John Burks.
And we're here to show you some of the work we've been creating over the last couple of weeks and talk to you about sort of how it's been working and not working, and sharing just general stuff that we might find interesting about processes and such. So, shall I kick off this time?
Okay, you kick off.
Yeah, you kicked off last time. When we last spoke, I'd finished an art hat that I put on and showed you, and I was all excited because I'd just started a second one. Well, I got on with it so well that in fact I finished that second one, and I've even finished a third one now, so I've just been going great guns.
Yeah.
And the first two, unfortunately, they're both not here now, so I can't show you the second one. But I do have this photograph that I took that I can show you how it looked. I deliberately took this before it went away. So as you can see, it's quite different to the first one, equally wacky and weird. This one is, I've got plastic bag strips again that I've put around the wire, but I've used milk bottle tops. And I actually, originally I tried not to use glue. I wanted to do it all by stitching, but I did have to glue gun them on in the end because they would then fall off in transit, because it's gone off to America for that exhibition, so it's all very exciting. So if you happen to be watching from Cleveland or anywhere nearby, that's at the Art House in Cleveland, and it's from, I think it's the 10th of December it opens, so that's exciting stuff. But I do have art hat number 3.
Okay, let's see it.
Okay, this one, I decided to make it each one really different in terms of the processes. So this is the next one. So I changed the shape completely, because I thought it might be just fun to see what would happen, and given it these kind of strange, kind of sticky out bits around the rim. And with this one, because the shape was so, the shape was the thing really, quite eye-catching, whereas the others were very just up and down. I felt I couldn't make sculptural things that came out of it because that would just compete with the shape. So I've kept the decoration of it very sort of two-dimensional, if you like. It's still strips of carrier bag. Let me hold it a little bit closer to the camera so as you can see. So I've sewn them on with little stitches top and bottom all the way around. Took ages. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but it took forever to do.
So what's this made from? This furry bits at the bottom?
Well, that's actually vegetable sacks. So it's a bit like, do you remember the green one, what I bound around the actual body of it?
Yes, yes.
It's the same thing, but yeah, just kind of scrunched up and bound around.
So more loosely wrapped around.
Yes, yeah. That's right. And it's sort of it's a. I like the fact that it gives it something a little bit more solid to catch your eye, because the rest of it's so kind of transparent. But it also makes it so you can put it on without it being really, really uncomfortable.
Come on then, let's see it.
There we go. Oh, hang on, I'm going to have to get down on the floor. Way! So there you go. It certainly isn't something to wear to go to the shops, but
you look like some kind of Dada witch.
Well, I put it on Facebook and I've been getting these comments that I'm like kind of deranged Christmas elf. So I'm guessing that's sort of along the same lines. So there you go. So, oh goodness me, I don't know whether I'm going to make a fourth one. I'm thinking I might branch out into just general wearable arts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking, you know, I've been looking at stuff like tribal masks, and I was thinking, you remember that Madonna bra with the big pointy boobies?
Oh yes, yeah.
You know, you could imagine.
Never can forget that.
There's different possibilities anyway. So yeah. So that's me. What have you been up to?
Right. Well, I've been up to two things. I've been painting, as I showed you last time, and I've been doing ceramics, as I showed you last time. I think I'll just very briefly show you the ceramics that I've been doing. because it's a work in progress. So we're back to the good old usual theme of the orbs or balls that I've been making, and this is the one that we've got at the moment. Now this hasn't been fired, it's at the stage called leather hard. So if I get a little bit closer, you can see that it isn't that fired colour. It's still very much the raw clay sort of colour. And it's got two very distinct textures on it. It's got a smooth texture there, and inside the grooves it's rough. So I've used two techniques to create those. The rough texture is created by a kind of planishing technique. So anybody who's ever done any metal work, where you beat copper or other soft metals to create a dinted surface and also smooth, thin out the metal, it's the same thing.
That's planishing.
Yes, planishing.
I've never heard that term. Planishing.
Yeah. So I use a really sophisticated system, a paintbrush, but instead of using the brush end, I use the other end and just literally tap into the surface like that to create that texture that we've got there. Now it has to be leather hard in order to do that, otherwise of course you just create craters, which if you want craters that's great, but I didn't. And then to get the burnishing effect on here where it actually becomes really shiny, I just use that end, that side of the spoon, and you just rub.
Okay, and that just polishes it up.
It polishes it, it forces the grog that's in it, which for those who don't know, grog is little bits of fired clay that have been ground up into a very fine grit, and then they're put into the soft clay to give it more body.
So you said it forces the grog
in.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so you don't get lumps on the surface which you would otherwise. Right.
And you can see there, as I'm doing it, it's making it even shinier. So if you look here, come closer. no, a bit closer still. Closer. Yeah, don't get too close, you'll be out of focus. There we go. So I don't know whether or not you can actually see that, but it is becoming increasingly shiny. So that then when this is fired in the kiln, that should come out as a very smooth, shiny surface in direct contrast to the really rough surface that's in there. And that's where we're at with this one.
Right.
Okay, so the important thing with this is to treat it carefully because it's very brittle and not to drop it. Okay? So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, so do you want to carry on and show us your painting? Because we saw this in progress last time, didn't we?
Yes.
It was, you could see what was going to happen a bit, but it was still quite
I think we are just about finished with this one.
Do you want me to hold it for you, and then you can talk to camera more effectively? There you go.
Yeah. I mean, as Lynne will testify, I've had a few moments with this where it's been close to an open window and nearly going out of it. But I've stuck with it and I'm quite pleased now with the final result. It's changed a lot since you saw it last, particularly up in the top area. The roof lines are completely different because the balance of this light area to the area down here was totally wrong, and I think now there's quite a nice balance going on there. Also, a major thing that I've changed is the addition of, again, I don't know if you go a little bit closer in the slide, you can see it, I've put a faint outline of a dog looking into the scene. Now, I was very unsure whether to do that or not, and I'd be interested to know your opinions on this. I like the idea of putting it there because I was very aware that we had a cityscape here, a townscape with no people. Now we're in the middle of a lockdown. We've had a lockdown earlier, just like a lot of other parts of the world. And I quite like the idea of this dog looking into this empty street and wondering what the devil's going on. Where is everybody? And I am thinking of calling it "Where is Everyone?" And I'd be really pleased to know whether or not you think that's a good idea for a title, or if you've got a better one. Please let me know.
Yeah, I like how it's looking now. I like the balance better, and it's more abstracted than it was.
Yes, it's definitely more abstracted.
Yeah.
I think I've also added the suggestion of trees in this to give it more of a focal point. My idea is that your eye is led in to the painting this way, round and up to these, as I say, abstracted trees. There is perspective in there, but as I'm sure you can see, it's a kind of slightly perverted, deranged perspective.
Well, as Cockney would say, perspective really doesn't exist. It just crushes reality. So he's not a big fan of perspective.
No, well, if it's all right for Cockney, it's all right for me.
Great. Oh, well done. Do you know what you're going to do next?
No. Because as I said the last time I made a film, I'm a novice to painting. I'm tempted to try to do something a little bit different each time, so that I can then try to settle on I suppose, for want of a better term, a style and direction.
It's interesting though, because although your subject matter is different, I think people that have seen the various paintings that you've produced recently, I think they would agree that there is definitely a style. I mean, apart from the first two that you did, when you really were finding out what you were doing, they've settled into this it's very geometric kind of thing, and they're always they always seem to have a feeling of reality about them. They're not completely abstracted as mine are, but they're abstractions of something that you can recognise. But they're very much geometric shapes, and you've got quite a clear colour palette as well that runs through your work. So I think you have certainly found a style anyway that,
Oh well, that's good then. So we can tick that off. That's sorted, that bit of it.
Yeah, I guess it's whether you're going to be doing another architectural one, or whether you're going to go back to landscape, or
maybe a seascape.
Yes,
possibly.
If you had any sea.
Yeah, we are 50 miles from the nearest bit of sea, but yeah, possibly. But no, I take those points. I think you're right. By nature, I tend to go towards geometric shapes in most things, as in this. And I do tend to think in a three-dimensional way. So even although I'm painting, it's clearly two-dimensional, I must admit, in my mind, I'm creating a three-dimensional world. Rather than a flat world.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Right.
So,
it's a good job it's acrylics actually, because I got covered in oil earlier on, because I've been drawing oil bars over the top of my acrylics, and I'd forgotten, and I got covered just off of the surfaces where we were setting things up. So I'm automatically going, forgetting it's in acrylics, and fortunately, not a problem. Yes, I've also been drawing and painting and stuff. Do you remember at the end of the last episode, I was telling you about the class that I'd signed up for, the Jenny Nelson, and I think I'd only just started it. I think I'd done the first lesson, and I've now actually rattled through all the lessons since then. So I've been doing 2 a week, more or less, and it has been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned quite a few new things. It's been good in different ways, actually. I'll tell you one of the things it's been good for is it's quite useful when you've been kind of working things out, on your own, to have reaffirmed that some of the things you're doing you've got it intuitively, you've been doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because some of the things that she's been teaching, I've been thinking, I'm already doing that. So it's made me feel more confident about the techniques that I'm using anyway, which is been quite useful, because I do still feel a bit floundery, like.
So it's good for the ego.
Well, yeah, but good for the confidence. But yeah, learning different techniques for getting you started, rather than just painting in a void, because I don't have particularly any reference material in mind. I'm just making marks and then responding to them, and so I find that quite stressful. I mean, I've talked to you about this before. I know the fact that you stood there, you know, I can make any mark. Why make that mark rather than that mark? And so I don't find it restful in any way at all. I find it quite a stressful experience. And so some of the techniques that she's been showing us have been really useful for actually giving you reasons to make marks. So just very quickly, because I don't want to go on too long, I just talked to you about one or two of the things. She got us to do the charcoal drawings I did at the beginning, and then she got us to do collages using the things that we learned from the idea of being very aware of contrast in the work. So making sure that there were areas of dark and areas of white, as well as halftones and marks, to make it visually interesting. And she made us cut these little tiny bits of cardboard and then cut up magazine pictures to stick on them. I can't remember which way up I decided that needed to go, but it kind of doesn't really matter. It works in different directions. But yeah, just to create something that gives you a bit of a kapow contrast thing going on, as well as little details in it. And these were just an exercise, but also to then give you something to try and interpret, so that you start with contrast before you even get into it. You know where there's going to be big areas of dark, and you don't necessarily stick to that. No. You kind of fiddle with it. You can make decisions and change it quite a lot if you want to, but it gives you a very strong beginning. So we did paintings in black and white, and this is the one, actually, if you hang on to that for me. Yep. This is the one that I did based on that. So if you try and get it in the same...
the right way around?
No, upside down.
No, wait.
Again, that's it, yeah.
Hey, yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah, so you can see the basic darks and lights are in the same place, but I made a lot of decisions in this area to change things, partly because you couldn't really paint what was on there, or would you want to? But also because I felt it needed certain, as you start to work, you feel you need certain shapes, and deciding to join up other things or take away other things. So I was really quite pleased with that. And it's definitely a painting I would not have painted if I hadn't have been doing this technique. It has things in common with the work I do, but it's sufficiently different. So that was definitely a useful little exercise. And then what she did was she got us to make marks on his paper, completely different starting point. So she got us to bigger paper and just draw shapes, geometric shapes, triangles and squares and circles, and keep turning it and then drawing them again with a different tool, different colour, different weight, turn it again, so that you get this mass of shapes, but linear shapes. So slightly different, because this is more starting thinking about blocked shapes really. And then work into that and look for the lines that you need to get rid of, because obviously you've got masses of lines that you don't want. And simplify and join things up, but keeping some of the lines. And this is one of the ones that I was quite pleased with, that I did as a result of that. Or one of the other things that she got us to do was work. Thank you. Was work with a very limited palette. Again, that was a really good idea, because although I'm very aware of that, from, I've worked in watercolours for many years, it's very useful to go back to it when you're trying to think about shapes and marks and composition, because you're not trying to think about everything at once. You're trying to think about colour and the way that different colours relate to one another, while you're still trying to think about all those other things. Is very complex. And so taking that out of the equation and just working with three colours. And so I was working with burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and Payne's grey for the blue. Actually, there's a little bit of a shine on it. Oh no, it's all right. It is quite. It's what I can see in the colour. Yeah. So this is a sort of blue grey from the Payne's grey, and white. And I think I used a black drawing tool on. No, I didn't on this one actually. No, I think this is still the Payne's grey actually. Yeah. So just those colours, and it makes you think more about tonal value rather than colour.
How did you get such a perfect frame of white paper around it?
Yeah, that was something I don't normally bother with, but she asked us to do, so I thought, yeah, I'd give it a try. And it's basically putting tape around your paper right at the outset.
Right,
artist tape, yeah. And then you paint the thing, and then you not right at the end, because I think you need to take the tape off slightly before the end to get a sense of the composition, because of course you're going over the edges a lot. But it's a lovely moment when you pull the tape off and you get this wonderful crisp edged composition. It suddenly snaps into focus, so it's really lovely to do. And yeah, I think this is a good technique. A bit of a nuisance. I'd only got brown artist tape, which meant that was horrible. You couldn't judge tones when you got this brown edging, so I had to gesso that white before I started.
Right.
But yeah. So there we go. So it's been really interesting, and I'll not talk to you about the last exercise because I don't want to go on too long, because there's another final lesson that I haven't shown you any work from, because most of what I've done is still halfway through. I'll talk to you about that next time. Give us something to look forward to.
Yes, I'm sure I will think of something to show you.
Well, hopefully your boil will be fired by then.
Possibly, yes. Yes, it might well be.
Yeah.
So,
do you know what colour it's going to be, by the way?
Well, when it's fired, it will be sort of like, almost like a bone colour.
Oh yeah, the actual clay colour.
Yes.
But I meant the glaze.
I haven't decided on that yet, because really, until I actually see the finished thing, it's a bit difficult to make that choice. Once I've done so far, I've not glazed. I've put oxides into it, which you rub into the clay once it's been fired, and it's refired, and it gives it very much a stone feel to it when it's completed, like the ones that I showed you last time. The other possibility is I might pit fire this, so it'll go into the kiln and be biscuit fired. Then it'll come out of the kiln. Then you take it out into the garden, and you cover it in things like bananas and twigs and all sorts of other peelings and all sorts of different things, each of which have different chemicals within them. So the and salt as well. So salt, for example, will make it very much a honey sort of colour. The banana skins, they have potassium in it, which could give it a kind of browny green finish, and then there's the smoke that comes from the fire as well, which can give it add to it a smoky sheen over the top of it all. You don't have much control over that process. You get what you get, but when it works, it's absolutely beautiful. So at the moment, the jury is out on how this will be completed.
That sounds really fun. I think you should do that.
Yeah.
I want to see whether that works, because I know you did one in the past that was a bit disappointing because it didn't get hot enough. Was that right?
That's right, yes.
So you didn't get the colours so much. Although you did get some quite lovely smoky.
The smoky element of it worked, but the oxide side of it and the other chemicals that were in there in the form of either vegetation or actual chemicals didn't really have much effect, and that probably was the temperature issue.
Right, so we need to make it hotter this time.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's something exciting to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I think we've probably rattled on for long enough. I hope you've enjoyed it, and do subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. We'll probably do another one in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, and also if we've been a little bit vague about anything, please feel free to ask for clarity on certain issues that you may have particular
comments.
interest in. Yes.
Yeah, leave comments.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.